Good morning, everybody. This is take 4 on trying to do this video. This is the third in a series that I'm doing in terms of how I work with dreams. In the first one, I spoke about learning to be with your dreams with love and with presence. In the second one, I spoke about looking at our dreams in terms of our own, not just as a piece of information, but as how they're about your own story. So there's like a narrative in dreams, metaphors that are related to who you are and the life that you've lived. And this third piece is the most important piece and maybe the hardest one to teach, the hardest one to learn. It's really something that it's taken me 20 years of working with thousands of dreams to really deeply let in. And it really has to do with how, going back to the first video, how we separate from that deeper love that I spoke about in that video, how we separate from presence, how we separate from ourselves. So in terms of the second video, the story of your dream is your story. But after thousands of dreams, what I saw was that part of everybody's story is that we are separate. This is part of why dreams seem so weird, is because they're reflecting back to us that alienation, that dissociation from who we are. So they appear weird to the waking mind because we've normalized who we are. We've normalized the way that people live in this culture. The irony of the whole thing is that it's actually upside down. Dreams actually are trying to bring back something that's not weird, something that's very basic, which is how to be with ourselves with love. So in the first video, I talked about being with dreams with love, but really it comes back to how to be with ourselves with love. And I think it's really a challenging thing to look at our culture and realize that as a culture, we've learned how to survive. We've put all our energy into survival. We've put all that love energy, all that life energy into surviving and gotten very good at that. And we should all be grateful, at least on some level, of everyone that's come before us, that's gotten us to where we are today. But on some other level, we've sacrificed huge parts of who we are to get here. And I know for some of you that may seem radical, for others it may not seem radical at all. It may seem like a duh moment. But I want you to consider this possibility, because if you look at dreams in this way, everything gets easier to work with. Everything, I don't want to say it's easy or simple, but it gives you a way to begin to work with your dreams, and also, more importantly, to take those dreams and help bring that information, that consciousness, that wisdom that comes to us in our dreams into our lives. Let me just check my notes here, make sure I'm covering everything here. Yeah, I think that's enough for that. So in very general terms, how you apply this to a dream, and this is a little bit of a gross oversimplification, but for the sake of communication and teaching, I'm going to try to do it this way. You can look at any dream and ask this question: is this dream showing me something about the way that I've separated from myself? Is it showing me some old hurt, some old thing that I learned, some old shame about myself, some fear that I have? Or on the other end of the spectrum, is it showing me something new, some way that I'm learning to let in the love? Or, and again, this is really a simplification, but the third and more common is it's showing some combination of the two. So for those of you that watched the last video that I did with Sue, I talked about dream where I'm in kind of the state trying to diffuse this bomb. And then there's this other part where this guy comes up to me and asks me to go have a beer, and I just leave the bomb behind. So if you look at that dream, that behavior of diffusing the bomb was a way that I lived a lot of my life. That's the alienation, that's the fear that I'm talking about. That's something I learned, in relationship to losing my brother, for example, who died when I was 17. That was like this huge explosion in my life, and I learned to deal with that on my own. I learned to deal with trying to deny the reality of it, try to pretend the bomb hadn't gone off already. That was the story of a lot of my life. And going and being with this man and having a beer was really like me coming back into myself, me knowing that I was not alone, that there was divine love there for me, that I didn't, whether the bomb blows or not, I don't have to be alone. And so with any dream, you can look at it this way and begin to notice, okay, where in my life am I diffusing the bomb? Where do I get triggered into that survival state? And how do I notice that and practice? In this case, it's a simple practice. How do I notice that? I don't have to judge that. I don't have to overcome that. I can be tender about okay, that's how I learned to survive in this world. How do I not let that run my life? How do I approach the world, approach my life from this other place of having what I think of as divine support? I think of this man that comes to me in my dreams as some kind of angel of God, if you will. You can use whatever language you want around that, archetype or anything else. Or you can think of it as a part of yourself, as some people do. So I hope this is helping. I hope this, and I think this is a very radical way of looking at dreams. So if it feels a little confusing, you can send a question. I'm going to talk about this in a lot of other videos. And I also have a dream, as I mentioned earlier. I hope I mentioned it earlier. Maybe I didn't. I have a dream that somebody sent into me that I'm going to do next, and I'm going to apply the same thing and show you, if this person came to me to do a dream session, this is how I would work with the dream. So let's go to the dream. I'm attempting to escape the regime. I'm wearing a dress that's nondescript. I am stopped and apprehended by 2 guards, one on each side of me. They are faceless and formless, but masculine feeling energy. I'm wearing orange Crocs on my feet, and I have a mandarin orange in my hand, my right hand, which I'm holding out in front of me. So here it is in the very first sentence. I'm trying to escape the regime. So in speaking to this dreamer, the first thing I would want to open up is well, what is that regime for you? We don't normally use the word regime in relationship to a place of personal freedom. We normally use the word regime in relationship to a place where we don't feel free. So that would most likely, and of course the dreamers, you're not here with me, so I can't double check it live, but that's where I would start is well, what's the regime for you? What are the experiences in your life? Not just what's happening now in the world, because I think a lot of people unless you're in an abusive situation, and of course there could always be overlap between what's happened in the past and what's happening now. I know this dreamer referenced what's happening right now in the country around Trump. So that could be a part of it. I don't want to dismiss that part of it and whatever the dreamer's feelings are about that part of it. But it's really important to work with that if that feels important to them, if that's part of what's resonating for them right now in terms of escaping a regime. And also, like, where in our lives, where else in our lives did we live in some kind of regime? Where else in our lives did we live someplace where we felt like we weren't free? I mean, that alone is a huge revelation for a lot of people. Maybe even more importantly is the next part, is that this person's trying to escape the regime. So just think about that, like whatever they've been up against in their life, something is alive in this person, some energy is alive in this person that's trying to get out, trying to get somewhere, and that would be the other part. And I might have even started with this with a new person, or with anybody. I might have actually started at the beginning, but if I'd taken a breath, I might have actually started with, well, what's that energy of trying to escape? What energy is getting apprehended? What's the energy of trying to get out of this regime? Because that's the part that really, as far as I'm concerned, it's why I'm working with dreams. Because there is a part of all of us that's trying to escape some lineage that we've internalized that's told us that we have to live in a smaller state of being under someone else's control, someone else's belief. And what is it that apprehends them? It says it's faceless and formless. So for me, part of what that means is it's not clear. So part of what you want to do, and part of what we're looking for, is a practice that helps this person, that helps you as the dreamer grow from this dream. So part of what we're trying to do is, like, one, nourish and encourage that energy that's trying to move into a new world, if you will, trying to get out of this old regime and move into some kind of new world. And what is that formless masculine energy that's keeping you from that? And how in my day-to-day life do I nurture the part of me that's like, I need to get into new worlds. I maybe need to look at what's the world I'm leaving. I need to look at the energy that's kind of apprehending me, that's stopping me. Like I'm hitting a block. I'm trying to get out of this world. I'm trying to get into a world of possibility, and I'm getting caught. And how do I turn that into a life practice where I move toward love, I move toward freedom? I know when the dreamer sent the dream in, they mentioned association with the mandarin orange in terms of like how juicy they are. And maybe that's part of it. Like maybe there's something about that juicy energy inside themselves, inside yourself as the dreamer, that you need to nurture. Like how do I let that juice, how do I feed from that juicy self? How do I get more mandarin oranges in my life, if you will? I don't mean that literally, although that could be something you play around with, is like as a reminder to be in this place. Like you could have the mandarin orange and the juice of the mandarin orange as a reminder to not get caught in whatever patterns and beliefs have come out of these old experiences that we've all had that keep us in some old regime. I mean, that's the most important part. There might be something here about like the fact that you're wearing a dress. I think you said in your notes that it's not something you normally do. Is there something about some time in your life when you did you ever wear dresses? Is there something about that time in your life where the regime began, where you were taught that something about that wasn't okay? Or maybe you were forced to wear dresses when you didn't want to. There's all sorts of possibilities. which, of course, without the dreamer, we don't know exactly what that is. But all of it's going to feed into this core practice and way of being that dreams allow us to change, allow us to find this deeper part of ourselves and bring that into the world. They allow us to change ourselves, and they allow us to change the world around us. Trying to think about whether there's anything I want to add to that. I feel like maybe I moved a little too fast today. This is the hard part about not having the dreamer with me. I guess I just want to pause and bring some tenderness to what I'm saying. Like, whatever that regime is, I just want to be tender about, like, for a lot of us, that includes experiences that are really challenging experiences. And with all of this, I want to go back to the thing about, like, we need to learn to be with that with love. We need to learn to move toward the freedom, and also be tender about the places where we get apprehended, to learn to bring love, to find support if we can inside ourselves. If you have a spiritual practice, to bring that presence or that love. You have a spiritual practice that includes a belief in God or the divine, to bring that divine energy in the places where we might not have support in the world. So the practice gets to be a meditation practice, it gets to be a prayer practice, it gets to be a way of life. And you get to reclaim yourself, you get to reclaim your story, you get to create your own story. I hope this helps a little bit. It was the hardest, I guess I should own that this was the hardest piece of the work for me to get, to really understand this. But as I understood this, dreams no longer seemed confusing to me. I can take any dream and look at it from this perspective. And most often, the reality of what's happening in the dream is more real and makes more sense than the stories we've been told about ourselves. All of that. Appreciate you all being here with me this morning. I hope this helps a little bit in your own journey. If you know someone else who's had a dream that they mentioned to you or want to work with dreams, please share this video with them. Please like and subscribe, and keep sending dreams. If you have a dream, I like, once or twice a month, I'd like to maybe keep touching into a dream, and we'll take it from there. Good dreaming. Thanks, everybody.